All
And
right.
record. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome to Hot Topic Tuesday, start of a new week. Hope everyone is having a good week so far. A lot of you probably had a day off yesterday, which is awesome. I am coming off of the most intense cheer weekend that I'll probably have all year. I think I got 50 to 60,000 steps over 3 days in Atlanta. I think like the biggest competition ever. So it was super fun, but feeling a little fatigue and a little sniffly because I think, everybody in the world is sick and especially there. Okay, so continuing on with hormones, we have been hot and heavy into hormones this month. And if you were following any of the social media last week, we talked a lot about training and nutrition around the menstrual cycle. So we just wanted to do kind of a quick recap of that and, just kind of talk live about some of those topics for a minute. I'm actually going to talk about the training portion around the menstrual cycle, and then I'm going to flip it over to April, and she's going to talk about the nutrition portion around the menstrual cycle. And we're going to kind of touch on strength training and more endurance aerobic type exercise. So in general, I'm going to kind of start with just the basics of what most people are feeling and kind of just go over the phases of the menstrual cycle again. And, then just touch on a few things related to training. So first, part of the menstrual cycle, we've got the menstruation phase, and that's about days 1 through 5 through most people. And during this phase, hormone levels are going to be at their lowest. So some women may be experiencing cramps, fatigue, bloating, just kind of uncomfortable feeling all over. Some may not really have to adjust their training much during this phase. Others may want to stick to maybe some lower intensity exercise, like maybe some yoga, stretching, walks. Heavier flow days can definitely impede how we're training too. So we may need to kind of make some adjustments for that phase also. And you'll notice, some fluid weight and some retention during that phase, which is also really normal, but can just make you feel a little bit, crappier overall. Then we get into the follicular phase, days 6 through 14 on average. So this is when estrogen levels are going to begin to rise. So we've talked about this so much before. You may feel an increase in your energy, better resiliency to stress, even sometimes, less hunger and things like that. Mood improves, which is awesome. So this phase typically across strength and endurance is best for your higher intensity exercise and workouts. So you may find that, training feels better, higher volume stuff you can handle more, and you just overall usually have a little bit better feeling, during this time. So take advantage. If you feel really great during this time and you want to go push the weights, push PRs, even like schedule a little bit more for yourself, then go ahead and take advantage of that time. Um, Ovulation around day 14. And it's really funny because in the past, kind of been looking and studying this topic for years, and I kind of just skipped over what happens at ovulation. And I thought that this actually was really interesting. So, ovulation occurs obviously when an egg is released from the ovary, usually around the midpoint of the menstrual cycle. Estrogen and testosterone are actually peak during this phase. So you can have an even more increase in your energy, strength, and performance, even over the follicular phase. So challenging workouts, interval training, high intensity, activities can all be really great during this time also. Then we get into the luteal phase, and this is where things may start to switch up a little bit, and that's typically about days 15 to 28. So during this phase, we do have an increase in progesterone. This can have, more water retention going on, bloating, more mood fluctuations, and our body temperature actually elevates, which if you have a little bit higher body temperature, it can make training a little more uncomfortable. You're already starting out hot, and when your body gets hotter, it can be a little just uncomfortable for sure. So modify workouts to accommodate this fatigue and discomfort. So more moderate intensity exercises might be best. Again, maybe more walking, yoga. If you're into strength training, you may just find that decreasing your volume, whether that's through the weight you're lifting or your sets reps, could be a good idea too. And you might need to take a few more recovery days, which is fine. So more specifically, a couple other things with strength training, just with some studies that they have done. So they have found that most of our max power and strength over our menstrual cycle is pretty static. So you can, if you're trying to hit a PR in a follicular phase or in a luteal phase, your max power may not be affected as much. But again, you just might feel a little bit better energy during that follicular phase. But they do find that because of the extra estrogen and energy in the follicular phase, that higher intensity training, high volume, hypertrophy adaptations are a little bit better in the follicular phase. So you shouldn't feel too much of a difference in like your max strength, but you'll probably definitely feel better for the higher volume, more hypertrophy adaptations in that first phase there. As far as endurance training goes, that one's kind of interesting because during the luteal phase, they actually find that we have better submaximal endurance. So, anybody that needs to do like a very long, steady state run, something that is very submaximal, under 70%, they find that the time to fatigue is actually reduced in the luteal phase. However, kind of similar to the strength training, anything high intensity, maybe your tempo runs, mile repeat, sprint work, that's going to probably be a little bit better in the follicular phase. They did a study that showed anything 70% VO2 max and over seemed to be, I think it was like, let me check my notes, 13% better during the follicular phase. So if you're endurance training and you can maybe adapt your schedule to do more of your tempo work, speed work in the first half, and then longer steady state runs in the second half, or make that more of a focus, that could work really well for you. So that pretty much sums it up. And April's probably she's gonna carry on with the nutrition part.
The short answer is go hard, go super hard in the follicular phase and steady, so slow and steady in the phase.
That pretty much is it. Yeah, and the nutrition will follow, as you'll see.
Exactly. Now, and it's funny, I get asked this a lot, and a lot of people kind of feel like some people, and Trish and I both have coached for a long time, and we have talked about it before, and we both have had a handful of clients that we've coached in the past, and may currently coach, that just feel like certain parts of their cycle, they just lose control. Like, I just overeat, just lose control. And we have both adopted basically kind of a hybrid approach specifically for those clients to accommodate those moments, those times. But with that being said, I have always said that we can alter our nutrition and we can utilize that to kind of support our hormones during, the different phases of our cycle. So with that being said, I'll kind of kick off similar to what Trish did. So menstruation days 1 through 5. The big focus is going to be replenishing iron because of the blood loss. So iron rich foods. So iron rich foods like lean meats, lean proteins such as poultry, fish, beans, lentils, spinach. Also fortified cereals. They're always going to be fortified with iron. A fun fact is that if you include foods rich in vitamin C, that will actually enhance the iron absorption. You obviously want to stay hydrated and consume plenty of fluids. So that's days 1 through 5. And then the follicular phase, which kind of seems to be like that, kind of like that magic little window. We talked about this on the estrogen live of, like, this is the time like where we're confident, we tend to spend more money, we're like, it's like that little phase of where we're kind of more upbeat and, outgoing and extroverted and confident here. So estrogen rises. You want to focus on complex carbs to support energy and replenish glycogen. Hence, you're going to be better at higher intensity hypertrophy. Whole grains, fruits, veggies, and legumes. You want to focus on lean proteins to support muscle repair and muscle growth. And then, of course, healthy fats like avocado, nuts, seeds, fatty fish to support hormone production. And it's funny because it's always, this is totally going on, like, I'm not trying to steer off topic, but some people will ask why the lean proteins and not the fattier protein, but I personally prefer, unless I'm doing fattier fish or like wild fish, I personally prefer the leaner protein sources over the the fatty or protein sources depending on how it's sourced. Because if it's not organic or it's not grass fed or if it's not locally sourced and you don't know, how it was raised and if it's hormone free or whatever, you typically want to avoid the fatty or protein because the fat is where all those excess hormones are stored. Same thing in with us, with humans. Like the adipose tissue is where any of the excess hormones are stored. So to be safe, focus on leaner protein sources and then get your balanced fats from other like good sources, like avocado, nuts, seeds, the wild salmon, and those types of foods. So you enter into ovulation day 14, plus or minus 2 days, depending on the length of your cycle. Obviously, you want to focus on hydration to support the increased fluid loss. You want to focus on foods rich in antioxidants and anti-inflammatory properties to support overall health and just reduce inflammation in general. Lean berries, leafy greens, turmeric, fatty fish like wild salmon, and also lean protein to support muscle recovery again. Then you're entering into the luteal phase, which is kind of like that, kind of in the tortoise, what is it, the tortoise and the rabbit, kind of entering into a little bit of that tortoise phase. So days 15 through 28, you want to focus on, specifically here is where you want to focus on foods that will help stabilize your blood sugar. So think of complex carbs and fiber. Fiber is so, so important and will be a big one for helping stabilize blood sugar. Lean more on healthy fats here during this period because that's going to help with cravings because you're going to be more hungry. You're going to be craving, you're going to be snacky and grabbing at things. So fats are going to make you feel more satiated. And another fun fact is if you increase magnesium rich foods like nuts, seeds, leafy greens, that's going to support your mood regulation and also help with bloating. Because, of course, it's not, some people worse than others, but our mood tends to kind of drop a little bit. So increasing magnesium rich foods here would help. Also, foods rich in B6 and just B vitamins in general, such as poultry, fish, bananas, chickpeas, they're going to help support serotonin production and overall energy. So
Mhm.
like in that phase, we tend to, mood kind of starts plummeting, and also our energy kind of starts plummeting. And I know for the longest I had, and it's funny because I'll even have clients now that will say something about it. It took me years to put those pieces together, but and everybody's different. But the week before my cycle, like it never failed. Like I would be, you know, going hard in the gym, feeling like Wonder Woman. And then all of a sudden I would just have this random day where everything felt like it was just in like quicksand or like concrete, that like even like a weight that was like light as a feather to me literally felt heavy, and just felt like I was just kind of going through the motions. I'm like, what the heck is wrong with me? And I used to beat myself up and like that was the crappiest workout ever. And then it never failed. Like my cycle would start like 5 days later, but it was always that week before, depending on if it fell on a weekend or if I was training. There was like 1 or 2 days where just everything was horrible. Like everything was horrible. And then I finally put it together and I stopped beating myself up over it. But you
Yeah.
focusing on those foods rich in B vitamins, is, and magnesium is going to help there tremendously. Now, keep in mind too that we tend to retain a lot more water, so you want to really, really lean on, staying hydrated and getting plenty of fluids, because we'll retain water. We'll actually retain more water if we're not hydrated properly. So it's retain water, drink water, so the big takeaway is making sure you're hydrated. You always want to make sure, always want to stay away from the simple carbs, lean on the complex carbs, fiber in the last part of the phase, the lean protein sources to support and rebuild muscle. So that's like super important. And keep in mind the last part of the phase, progesterone typically craves carbs. Like it craves
Mhm.
carbs like no end. And I think sometimes a lot of it is, and of course, it's craving carbs for that serotonin too. But I think a lot of times, we already feel kind of bloated and watery. So mindset wise, we're almost like, you know what, whatever, I'm going to eat this half a bag of chocolate or whatever the case may be. But keep in mind that if you do really, really hone in and you're in tune with your cycle and you lean more on heavier on fats and heavier on fiber, that can help like tremendously. So you can, kind of balance it out and not go completely overboard. So with that being said, hopefully this was helpful and um we will see y'all next week. And until then, y'all everybody have a great week.
Bye.